Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 3 of Tooned Up, the Renegade Pop Culture podcast that focuses on the world of animation, all the big and small stories going on. I am your host, Mike K, and with me are my co-hosts, Cameron.
Yo.
And introducing our special guest, PJ Campbell of the PJ Campbell Network.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
And,
No problem.
and of course, Evan Degraff.
I'm trying to figure out in what world PJ Campbell of the PJ Campbell Network would be representing the PJ Campbell Network. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why he's here. Why did you invite him?
It's okay. We could say that I'm representing the movie Trivia Schmodown if it would make you feel better, but I don't think Christian would like. Yeah, Christian wouldn't like that any better, probably.
Probably not.
Well, don't worry. This is a judgment-free zone. Everyone is here for their love of animation.
That's right. Let's
talk. Our main event today is a review of the Netflix original animated movie, The Willoughbys. But before we get to that, we have a couple news stories to break down. Starting with what I think is probably one of the biggest stories is HBO Max finally announces their launch date, and a whole bunch of new content, including new Looney Tunes shorts and a very large back catalog. They have everything from the Turner Classic Movies library to Studio Ghibli's complete collection. So, I'll just throw this question out there. What is it about HBO Max that you're the most excited about?
For me, it's the new Looney Tunes shorts because they're taking a very deep cut into how they are tackling these shorts. They look like the old 40s and 50s shorts. They're going with the same voice style and art direction. And sure, sometimes you can tell that there are different forms of 2D animation being used, but it's very nostalgic. They're aiming this at a very specific audience, and I think that's very good. And I'm finally excited to see the guy who made Regular Show's new show finally get some life, and seeing the guy who made Chowder with his new take on the Hanna-Barbera characters of Jellystone. That just looks exciting to me. And of course, you got millions of hours of content.
Yeah, they said up to 10,000 hours of content. That's not as big as like Amazon Prime or Netflix's library, but still, that's a lot to go through.
Yeah, I think when it comes to HBO Max right now, I think the big thing is they're doing a lot of counter programming to what services like Hulu, Disney Plus, and I say one like those two, but they're really one and the same. And Netflix. It looks like they're doing a lot of counter programming and trying to figure out what titles they can hit to audiences that wouldn't want to buy Disney Plus because they're not into those shows or whatever, or even big shows from Netflix like Stranger Things and whatnot. I think the big issue that we're going to see HBO Max having is it's $15 a month. That price is, I don't want to say ridiculous. I get it for as much content is going to be on there. It makes sense, but why pay $15 a month, especially when one of your biggest titles, and I know this is supposed to be centered around animation, but one of your biggest titles most likely isn't going to be on there in Harry Potter.
I mean, I would agree with you partially if they weren't just going off the price point that they've already set for HBO. Like, right. That's the thing, is that the price point that they currently have set is no different than what you're paying if you have, I believe, HBO Go or HBO Now or whatever version of HBO you have. I mean, that's really the deciding factor. And I believe if you even have HBO already, you're kind of grandfathered into being able to have access to it. Now, but, all that... What?
No, I was... But yeah, I could just finish your point, because I'm curious where you're going to go with this.
So, is it more expensive? Yes, but they're also... but you're also having to factor in that they have way more stuff at launch, in my opinion, than even Disney had on Disney Plus.
Right.
I mean, you have a back catalog of stuff that was incredibly expensive for them to get. The one thing I'm going to give them credit for more than anything, Disney dropped the ball super hard with the Studio Ghibli stuff. They had that forever. I mean, all my Blu-rays that I own are still the Disney releases of those movies. And Disney managed to like lose that license, and that would have been perfect for their launch, but WB was very smart. Anime is very big. Netflix has done a great job in using anime as a forefront push, and that is one of the smart moves for them, is using that back catalog. You have the HBO back catalog. You've got, you know, all the stuff that they're doing with Hanna-Barbera and the Looney Tunes. I mean, there's, what is it, like 80 to 100 new shorts or something that they have just of Looney Tunes characters alone?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so you have to look at it as you're investing that kind of money, but you're getting a ton back. Plus, they're coming out the gate with more new series, I feel like, than Disney Plus did out the gate. You have the Stargirl, the one that's also going to be on CW, which is a very confusing trend that I'm not really understanding how they're going to make that work. But whatever.
We'll get to something else in a minute about DC Universe.
Right. And so you have to look at it from a business standpoint. These guys don't make these calls in a way that they think it's going to impact them the wrong way. This price point was set by what they knew people would pay because they were already paying for it. So if you think that you can keep that forward momentum and have the same price point, but you're giving them new content, you're actually, in a way, they're smart. They're kind of giving everyone, it's almost like they're doing you a favor. You're paying the same thing, but look at all the extra content you get. In that way, when they raise the price later, you don't blink.
But here's the issue though, right? The launch in my eyes is to make sure that you have new eyes on your content, not just the same audience. And right now we're in this weird market where none of us can go to the theaters for obvious reasons. Cable is at its lowest, and so everything is streaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're also now in that point where if you're paying for enough streaming services, it now becomes, oh, you're practically paying another cable bill instead.
Right.
And so at least I know when I look, and granted, I'm a college student, so my finances are different than like a normal family at the home. But when I look at my finances and I decide, okay, what works for me and what doesn't, $15 is steep. And I would much rather them have a price staggering, because I'd be willing to pay $10 with commercials a month.
Well,
because its catalog is great.
You're not wrong. And I have this idea, personally speaking, that because I mean, I know a lot of people personally who have already canceled Netflix because Netflix isn't offering anybody the stuff that they really want in the same way that, say, Disney Plus is currently doing. And if HBO Max, with the slate they currently have, is the only two streaming services you need to keep your entire family entertained is going to cost you like $20 a month between two services. Just over $20. Like
right.
I'm rounding to the nearest $10 mark essentially. But that alone, I think, kind of sets it apart. And into your point, like if you look at the stuff they're doing with the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, this is why I'm so confused, because I think we're going to talk about this, is the fact that Scoob is going to VOD versus putting it on HBO Max. Because I actually think that putting Scoob as an HBO Max exclusive would have been the forward-thinking movement, one, to get subscribers, but also it totally launches what you're trying to do with the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, because this Scoob film is supposed to be the launch of its own Hanna-Barbera universe on film. So the fact that they're not trying to launch it on HBO Max is so bizarre to me, because 1 month of your subscription of HBO Max would cover what it's going to cost, less than actually to actually rent the movie or buy it when it comes out.
I kind of get why they aren't. They are making a short-term decision right now with seeing how Trolls World Tour made bank. They want to get that bank, and then probably in like a few months or so, they'll upload Scoob to HBO Max or something.
You're not wrong. I just think that it's definitely the short-term play, but I think it's the wrong move. I think that, especially right now with how things are, you should really be looking at the long-term goal. And I have my own problems with Warner Brothers in a lot of their thinking anyway. When you look at how they've handled things like the DC streaming service, because you launch that with the idea knowing you were also going to be launching down the line another streaming service. Like it seems very counterproductive.
Yeah, no, they're doing some weird stuff. I don't fully get it either. And they have like this little niche streaming service called Verve, VRV, and it's owned by them. So does that mean this thing's going to get swallowed up and such to HBO Max? And
I actually didn't know Verve was owned by Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I found that out. It's really,
but I guess that makes sense that Crunchyroll would be folded into HBO Max,
right? Because I think they announced that on the outset during the conference last year, was that Crunchyroll was a part of their bigger plan.
Yeah, no, that'll be interesting to see what happens.
I think, and to PJ's point, right now you have to invest in yourself, and you have to invest in what people are going to be consistently paying month to month, because you never know when your next big movie or your next big show is going to be that's, going to be live on air or, in the theaters. And so you have to invest in yourself and make sure people are actually paying that $15 a month. So if you release Scoob on VOD first, you're losing out on a potential. I don't know how many people are going to check out, Warner, the HBO Max because of Scoob, but you're missing out on that potential audience and those potential ratings. And that's the issue, is it seems like they're not investing in themselves as much as they should. And they're more worried about the money now, which for a company as big as Warner Brothers, it's really confusing that they would do something like that, because you think they'd be business forward.
Right, and that's where I'm coming from a little bit, especially with Scooby-Doo as an IP. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a huge Scooby-Doo fan.
I love Scooby-Doo.
So I grew up on Scooby-Doo, and actually, there's one or two direct-to-video Scooby-Doo movies at least a year. And the last couple of years, they've kind of started doing a thing where they're kind of playing to my generation's audience, because I'm going to guess I'm a little bit older than everyone on the panel. Not to, give my age or anything, but yeah. I grew up when Zombie Island was huge. And I remember when Zombie Island came out, and that was one of the biggest pushes I ever saw Warner Brothers give anything at the time.
Yeah, that was a huge deal back
right.
then.
And it wasn't even a theatrical release. That was the thing. So that was what was so interesting, was Zombie Island had this huge marketing push that started a whole new brand of Scooby-Doo movies. If you guys remember correctly, that was the lineup afterwards. And something that they've been kind of doing over the last couple of years is going back to my generation who grew up on that. And last year they did Return to Zombie Island, but they also did Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost, which was finally putting an end to the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, which never had an ending.
Right.
And what they've started to do with these movies is create one universe. In a way that the shows and the movies really quite hadn't been before. Everything kind of just existed as it did, but they were starting to take the old canon and the newer canon, and they were trying to kind of put it together. So the Scooby-Doo on Return to Zombie Island is actually a sequel to the 13 Ghosts. And the way that they were doing it was trying to put everything together in a very interesting way. So they finally started doing something with the IP. So where I'm kind of going with this is, it's fucking weird to me that of all the things that they clearly haven't really seen Scooby in the potential of being a big screen star, that, again, I know that they want to make the short-term play on the money for this, but the long-term play should be toss this thing on HBO Max with the rest of your Scooby-Doo content and use it as a forward-selling device also for what you're trying to do with Hanna-Barbera, because I think you win both sides and you potentially get a series out of this.
I think I agree with a lot of that. The only reason I can think of for them keeping the May 15th date and putting it on VOD, it's just because they already have that release date,
right?
And they want to just make a few extra bucks when they could have pulled what Disney Plus did with Artemis Fowl and just make it a streaming service exclusive.
Yeah, I think it's like with Disney Plus. I think they know Artemis Fowl would have died at the box office. It just, that film has so much of a dead on arrival stink on it. And Scoob, I think they know has like a slightly higher chance, even though I don't know how much people know about the production side of things. You know, like Dax Shepard was supposed to direct this movie and make it. He was going to write it. He was very passionate about it. And then in 2017, Chips happened, which was one of the worst movies of that year. And then he got kicked off the project, and then they had to kind of reshuffle a few things around. And I think they want to make some cash back, even if it's not good in the long term of things.
Something else I forgot about Scoob is that it's been delayed like at least like 3 different times before settling on this release date.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I remember hearing about this movie back in like 2014.
Right. But then even with that thinking, then, and also on to Cameron's point about Artemis Fowl, was I don't agree with it. If we're gonna have that same assessment, then just dump it onto the streaming service, and then if it flops on VOD, then you're taking a bigger like stabs to the company than rather just putting it on a streaming service, which you're making and trying to hype up, and it's probably gonna become the staple of your content creation for the next 6 months due to coronavirus.
Oh yeah, no, I don't agree with them not putting a Scoob on. I mean, I understand, and I do agree that they should have put it on HBO Max. That would have been a very juicy detail or addition to it. But I get it. It's just, it's weird how Warner Brothers is working on all this.
Right.
Well, and I think it's interesting because I also think, personally speaking, again, as someone who loves Scooby-Doo and would love to see this property utilized in a way that I think Warner Brothers actually could, and I think that they dropped the ball hard frequently with this character, I think it also shows a lack of faith in the property, which is weird because Scooby-Doo has been one of their most consistently ongoing properties since its inception. But for whatever reason, they feel the need that they need to like back up, and they're trying to find the way to make the most money with it. But I can't help but think, personally speaking, that it just feels like they're only in it for the money and not looking at the long-term play. And that's so strange to me, but it also is so in line with the things that they've done over the last 30 years as a studio, as I've watched them, that it's hard to also argue with what they're doing.
Yeah, no, we'll have to see what happens. Like,
another bizarre move for Warner Brothers is their DC Universe original Harley Quinn is going to premiere on the Sci-Fi Network next weekend. Now this one's particularly strange because, to my knowledge, I don't think Sci-Fi is owned by Warner Brothers, despite them like broadcasting a couple of their series like Krypton, which I think is one of the best Superman adjacent series out there that unfortunately nobody watched.
Oh,
but this just begs the question of how long do you think the DC Universe app is going to last if they keep like outsourcing their content?
I don't think this thing is going to last much longer. I mean, first off, I don't get the move to Sci-Fi with Harley Quinn. The entire point of it being on the app was that it was not going to be, on TV standards. It wasn't going to have to follow TV protocol. But now it kind of has to, and that kind of takes the punch out of it. And I just don't think of Sci-Fi with DC or anything like that. I think of Sci-Fi as the channel that made all those horrible monster movies that became worse when they decided to be super tongue-in-cheek about them. I guess I don't get it. I don't get the channel or anything like that.
Well, it's funny that you like mention all this because it still becomes full circle at this point. The main issue with moving it to Sci-Fi is I don't know who watches that channel. I don't know anyone who goes on a cable TV and says, I'm going to watch the Sci-Fi Network today, which every now and then there might be a good movie that I put on, but that's literally the only reason anyone goes to the Sci-Fi channel. Secondly, there's Adult Swim literally right there if you're going to do something stupid like this. if you're gonna be stupid, at least do it in the right way.
Yeah,
And
they own Adult Swim. It's like it wouldn't be that big of a shock for Harley Quinn to be on there.
Right, and that's my whole. I was going to say to all of this is it is so bizarre to me that they are outsourcing Harley Quinn to a Universal Studios or Comcast rather owned network when they have Cartoon Network. They have Adult Swim right there. Harley Quinn fits the Adult Swim mold. It is utterly bizarre to me that this is their play, and this goes exactly what I was saying earlier. Is that the idea that they started a streaming service last year with the forefront knowledge that they were also working on a bigger streaming service that was eventually going to have to fold this one is utterly insane. And
they're just burning through money.
They are. It's crazy. And I know that they just got bought by AT&T, and like there's no way AT&T keeps them open with DC Universe. I mean, unless they go the Marvel Unlimited route and they turn it into a comics first app that also happens to have video content, then maybe that's one thing. But
that's what I'm thinking they probably should do.
Yeah, right. You have to look at it as a business standpoint. But, and the big but of this all is, Warner Brothers, in my opinion, continues to make horrible decisions. And so the fact that they didn't think this through or care enough to think it through tells me that they're not that worried if this goes the wrong way. Like, look what they did to Swamp Thing on the same service.
Oh, rest in peace, Swamp Thing.
That.
Right. I mean, that whole situation where they cut the episode order and canceled the show without really giving them time to wrap it up is utterly bizarre to me. And Harley Quinn doesn't fit on Sci-Fi Channel because Sci-Fi Channel is just not really... People still watch it from time to time, but I think even The Magicians is coming to an end, and that's arguably their most popular show. 12 Monkeys already ended. Their handling of Eureka and Warehouse 13 years back was not great when they canceled those. They botched the stuff with Tremors. Like, Sci-Fi Channel's the last place that you want to put something like this, and yet here we are.
It's funny that you mentioned that because, like, we're now entering a space where cable TV is more slowly becoming irrelevant outside of news. News is probably as popular as it's ever been. But we're reaching a point where you can now be really progressive with however you want to market or provide your content. And let's just theoretically say that the DC Universe app is dying, right? Mm-hmm. It's gone. It's not working out, which is okay. You do experiments. It doesn't work great. It's almost like you have another streaming service that you could just transfer all of your content over to. It's almost like there's a place that you've literally made for the masses that you're charging $15 a month for, mind you, that you could put it there. But, you know, it's almost like they're expecting their customers to like triple dip in 3 different places. Let's go on HBO Max. Let's go on to the DCU app. Let's have you guys go to Sci-Fi because we just struck a deal with Comcast for whatever reason. Like, it is bizarre to me how hard they're trying to make this on their viewers and their audiences when they could really make it super easy and probably make more money that way and save money as well, to be honest.
And that's the thing is I feel like they're just burning money, as was said earlier by the other members of our panel right here. Like, they're just throwing money at a wall and hoping that it doesn't matter. And I can't for the life of me understand their decision making when I think that they're hindering their own properties. I mean, Harley Quinn is a great cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
For all intents and purposes, it deserves the audience that it needs. That audience is on Adult Swim. Like, I don't understand. I just don't.
It's like Adult Swim is also known for having like darkly comedic, hyper violent shows.
Right.
Harley Quinn would fit perfectly in. Like, they're being weird about this. I don't know where the money is going in all of this.
I don't either. And look at it this way. I mean, Harley Quinn as an animated series, in my opinion, and I say that a lot because I don't want the internet yelling at any of us later for what I'm saying, is that I think Harley Quinn really plays to an audience that grew up on Batman the Animated Series. And in that vein, it is utterly bizarre to me that the same audience also grew up with Samurai Jack, and we finally got the sequel to Samurai Jack on Adult Swim by the same company. So in that process of thought, you would think you would just move it. And I just don't understand why you don't use the thing that you have.
Yeah.
But it's Warner Brothers think, so what do I know?
It confuses me so much because they're right now the number one competitor to Disney.
Yeah.
In this space, at least.
Yeah.
Tech is a different conversation, but in this one specific space, Disney is the number one competitor. And when you shit the bag so much, it's hard to blame Disney or whatever. And this is a bigger conversation. It's hard to blame Disney for them becoming the monopoly when you literally have all these companies just literally shitting themselves, excuse my language, for no apparent reason. Like it seems so much easier than they're making it out to be. And I think that's where I get frustrated, is because I want more content. I love Disney, but I also want other content. Believe it or not, I like Scooby-Doo. I like Looney Tunes. A lot of my favorite programming comes from Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
But it's so goddamn inaccessible sometimes. Make it easy. Make it make sense.
Well, and to your point, like I do push back on the people who talk about Disney as a monopoly, because I think the other content's out there. The problem is to your point, why is it not easy to access? And this is exactly what we're talking about. WB having multiple streaming services all the time is not easily accessible because they also move shit around and don't put things where they should be. They don't think about it, and they're wasting their IPs in the process. It's fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I'm very passionate about this.
Oh, no.
That's all right.
That's great.
We love the passion.
Yeah. No, that's it's honest. It's earnest. I love it. So,
we also love laughing at stupid ideas. And one that I'm really unsure how it's going to work is this live action One Punch Man adaptation from the writers of Venom. Cameron, why don't you break this one down?
Okay. You would think after failure after failure after failure of trying to turn anime into live action, taking away the entire point of anime with it being animated, you would think Hollywood would stop. And like I love Alita Battle Angel, and by the bare bones definition, Edge of Tomorrow is an anime film because it's based off of a manga. Racer. I'm not going to talk about that one. Sorry, I don't like that one. But with One Punch Man, this is a very specific, quirky series that I don't think the writers of Venom are going to get. Maybe they will. I'm hopeful. But the entire point of One Punch Man is that he's too strong to be the main character. That's why the anime series itself doesn't really focus on him. Any of the drama and conflict happens with everyone else. Because then Saitama comes in, punches them, they explode into chunks, and then he's like, oh, darn it, I'm too strong still. And I'm so worried that they're going to make Saitama the lead, and it's just like, no, just don't. Do not. It's the entire commentary is, this is what happens when you have Saitama as a lead. These overpowered characters that can kill anything with one shot, like a punch or a kick or whatever. And then it takes all the stakes away because it's like, I'm very annoyed by this announcement.
I mean, look, I'm not a fan most of the time of taking any anime and turning it into live action. I think it's only worked one-ish time, and that was Death Note in Japan, not the one we did here. If you go on my Twitter, that someone, I think Fandom had just tweeted out that they were like, here's all the live action adaptations of anime in the work, and the very second thing they had on there was Death Note 2, and I was like, someone please kill Death Note 2 on Netflix, because we don't need that. We don't need another one of those in my life. None of us deserve that. I just don't understand the thought process of American studios trying to take anime properties and turning them live action. I would argue maybe the only other one that worked was Detective Pikachu, but Detective Pikachu is more of a video game adaptation than it is an anime adaptation because you're not adapting the show.
Right.
You're doing a takeoff of the video game. Basically more in a Deadpool sort of way because of Ryan Reynolds, but, you know, I digress. It's just a weird thing, man. Like, One Punch Man does not seem like the kind of cinematic treatment that we need right now.
And it's especially baffling because, of course, these things take forever and such. This would have made sense if this was One Punch Man season 1, like if this was announced during that time period. Now we've had a second season, and you either find people who despise that second season or have like a very faint defense for that second season and such. And no, it's like it's a little too late, and I'm just thinking that they're just going to miss the entire point and such.
Yeah, and again, it just feels like you're also so behind the curve on this, right? Like, that's the very typical Hollywood mindset, and it is Sony that's doing this, isn't it?
Yeah, Sony.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, here we are. Sony. Brilliant Sony. Sony's done, like, great things in the past, and arguably, they actually, right now, on this day, as we record this, as we have this conversation, they currently have the highest grossing film of the year in Bad Boys for Life, which is maybe like the best thing they've done in almost a decade outside of the Jump Street movies.
Oh, wait, what about
Spider-Verse?
Yeah, Spider-Verse.
I'm talking about their like live action stuff.
Oh, okay.
Because we're talking about One Punch Man in live action.
Oh, I see.
They make really, really weird decisions, right? And if you look at what they've done with Venom, if you look at what we're clearly getting with Morbius, I'm already terrified of what this is going to look like. Because they're going to get someone who's just a gun for hire, making something probably on the cheap that will turn a profit quick, and then they can call it a success. It will be the Venom situation all over again, to the point that we're all just going, the fuck, really? Like, I would not be surprised if they just took the Venom script and turned it into a One Punch Man one, called it a day, and it'll still make $600 million.
I mean, at least with Venom being like the hot mess that it was, you still had Tom Hardy and Venom's chemistry and such. Here, Saitama, aka One Punch Man, he's not the most interesting character. He's very like dull, very just kind of like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna mope around a little and then punch something and they explode into chunks. And no, you can't. Man,
it just seems so weird.
Well, there's just like also I'm not a big fan of turning a lot of animation in general into live action films because I've had this conversation. It's my favorite form of film media that is out there due to obvious reasons. Like there's just so much you can do with it. But when you try and put something that's animated and you try and make it live action, you start almost restricting yourself. The whole idea of animation is that it is like bunch of endless possibilities.
Yeah, it's unlimited. You can do whatever you want.
But now you don't have that. And especially when it comes to a bunch of animes, they really go on that. It's like, I'm going to do this really whacked out scene, but we're going to get away with it because it's animation. You can no longer do those cracked out scenes anymore, or anything that people would like, anything that people like really enthrall themselves into. I'm gonna reference this. I'm gonna get in trouble, but it's fine. But like take something like JoJo's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the story and the plot line is fun, it's cute, a lot of it's insane, but it's a good time. None of those scenes could work in live action due to a lot of the shit that just happens and a lot of the landscapes and a lot of the portraits that are drawn in between the transitions of big fights or whatever. It just doesn't work. And I'm not too familiar with One Punch Man, but I could imagine some of the big scenes and even some of the intros and shit. The reason why people love anime, it just won't translate to live action for like those reasons. It's frustrating.
Well, it's also just like who you have as the animation team and who's directing the series. And it's just like you can't just say like, "Oh, we'll just do this and we'll copy it into live action and then that'll be fine." No, you can't. It's like it's directed like that for a reason. It's animated like that for a reason. I just don't see this one turning out well.
I believe the absolute worst case scenario for this movie is we get another Dragon Ball Evolution.
Oh,
Oh,
no!
God,
And as someone who's a
forgot
big
about
Dragon
that.
Ball fan, I don't ever want to see another movie of that, like that kind of disaster.
Oh
Right.
God, and One Punch Man can easily be made on a smaller budget because a lot of the character designs are not super like detailed and imaginative. Like Saitama basically wears like a yellow onesie with red gloves and a small white cape, and but man, I'm trying to find the optimistic route in this, and I just can't.
No, I forgot about the Dragon Ball thing until you brought that up, and it's like I've gone so long trying to wipe that from my mind, and now I'm like horrified by the idea of them even trying this.
Yeah. Oh gosh, Dragon Ball Evolution. I feel so bad for all the people who worked on that.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, I guess we should move on to some slightly more positive news, like with Kevin Lima, the director of a Goofy movie. If you follow his Twitter, he has been showing off like concept art and just a bunch of stuff from a film he was going to work at with DreamWorks before it got shelved, called The Monkeys of Mumbai. And like you don't really get to see this, or it's like at least like years later they can finally talk about it. So finally seeing some of this concept art and some of the details behind it on his Twitter, this sounds like such a cool idea. And this is kind of my frustration with DreamWorks. It's like the same with what we were talking about, Warner Brothers. DreamWorks has so much talent there. They have talented people there. And for any chance that they get to do something unique, they just shelf it. And I don't get it. They go for something that they can like make a good amount of chunk of change on and then turn it into an animated series. And just looking at some of this artwork, it's so pretty. It's so nice looking. I love the design work, and I love Kevin Lima as a director. Like I'm sure a lot of us rewatched a Goofy movie recently, and
No way.
yeah,
That didn't happen. We didn't watch a Goofy movie on the PJ Campbell Network. No, that's not possible.
no, I'm
No,
sure it didn't
definitely
happen.
not.
No.
Roxanne does not have my heart.
No,
Heartless
and
soul.
no, and I mean, what do you all think about this? Have you all seen the concept art for it and such?
Yeah, you guys.
I took a look at some of it, and it's, man, this just makes me sad for not just this movie, but DreamWorks has like pretty much a closet of like a bunch of shelved projects. Two of them that I'm really the most sad about are Edgar Wright was going to do a movie called Me and My Shadow,
Yeah,
which was like a blend of like 2D and 3D animation, and the other one was a co-production with Blumhouse called Spooky Jack, which would have been so cool, like something that we don't have enough of are like animated horror films or just horror films in general for like families.
yeah, no, that's very true because I think they are nervous about pulling the trigger on how dark they can go. I think that was the problem with last year's Addams Family. They could go they can go like a certain distance with the dark humor, but they couldn't go too far, or they chose not to go too far, and then it kind of feels like you're getting a slightly neutered product of something that has been done better. And again, like DreamWorks, like you said with Me and My Shadow, which was also going to have Bill Hader in it, and they've released some test footage of like the shadow being animated, and it looks so good. And it would have looked unique. It would have looked like something distinctly DreamWorks. But then they're going to make another Boss Baby, and I'm not the biggest hater on that film or anything, but it's like, come on.
They are also notorious for being the people who like milk an IP to death by doing multiple TV show versions of it and stuff like that. I mean, every once in a while, the How to Train Your Dragons exist, and even Kung Fu Panda, where the shows actually really work within the confines of the movies themselves and further the storytelling.
Yeah.
But more often than not, unfortunately, to your point, I think they have incredibly talented people who just get railroaded all the time. And I was looking at this concept art because you guys had sent me the links, and I was just taken aback by how beautiful it was and what it could have been, and everything about it looks so interesting. And it is so heartbreaking to me when stuff like this happens. I mean, we've seen it with Pixar too. Obviously, if you look at The Good Dinosaur, The Good Dinosaur was completely changed.
Yeah.
Newt was canceled, never finished. The Edgar Wright one at DreamWorks was one I was super excited for, but like, man, looking at this makes me wish that they would take more chances.
Yeah,
because I think it could have worked.
And I think the big problem was, and it kind of goes all the way back to when they were founded, DreamWorks was founded on petty cynicism. Jeffrey Katzenberg was angry at Disney because they kicked him out, and then just greenlit a bunch of projects that and some of those early ones are great, like Prince of Egypt, of course, we talked about, and then The Road to El Dorado, and to a certain degree, Sinbad is a lot of fun still. But and then of course, but then when they found out, that they had a hit on their hands with Shrek, and it's just like, oh, people like this cynical, snarky, sassy stuff we do, so let's just do that. And then it kind of cuts them off at okay, so that means that we're not going to do something creative. And they still can. Like they did that Captain Underpants film from 2017.
So
and
that movie's incredible.
Yeah.
Just give me a second, because I don't know I'm gonna have the chance to talk about this movie again. But if you haven't seen Captain America, it's not Captain America, Captain Underpants. Do literally whatever you can to watch it. It is it's a nice little present that you open up the box, and it is the favorite Christmas present you ever got.
Dude,
absolutely ridiculous from front to bottom, but in all the best ways.
I won't lie to you guys. I grew up reading those books, or the comics, rather.
Yeah.
And I loved them growing up. And I never thought we'd get an adaptation of it. It floated around for a long time. And to finally have it happen, even just a few years ago, it brought so much delight to me. And I cannot, for the life of me, when I went to my critic screening for it, we were embargoed until the day before it came out, and which I thought was absurd. Because I felt like that movie deserved to get praised out the gate, so it would have done better. And I was with Bibiani, of all people, and we laughed all the way through it, man. I thought that movie was fantastic. And it might be one of my favorite. Yeah, I might honestly be one of my favorite DreamWorks movies.
Same.
Yeah, same. And I still love the whole sock puppet sequence where the two kids get separated, and then it's and we'll see each other at the mall. I'll be wearing a suit, and you'll have a weird haircut. And then we won't recognize each other. And then robots invade, and it's wait, why are there robots in the future? I don't know. It's just something that happens in the future.
It's so funny though, because that year, if Coco hadn't came out, it would have been the best animated feature of that year.
Yeah, I could see that.
And it's so funny though. It speaks literally how good sometimes you have just these really good, snappy comedic writers, and also how you can use different styles of animation to tell your story, which I'm glad it's becoming more and more progressive at this point, especially with Spider-Verse and, different things now coming out as well. Mm-hmm. It's just at some point, let's just see more. I want more variation,
Yeah, and it's just I would think that would help DreamWorks in the long run. And Abominable from last year was pretty solid. I mean, not one of their higher up films, but
it was really cute.
Yeah, it was really cute. So, seen as Monkeys of Mumbai film, now of course they probably have to adjust it a little, you know, like make it a little more workable in today's climate. Um, but it just looks good, and I trust the director and such. So hopefully, DreamWorks or someone else in charge can be like, "Hey, let's resurrect some of these old projects and such," because that's the only way they're going to let go of them, and unless like Edgar Wright comes back and says like, "Hey, I want to buy the Me and My Shadow IP
Right.
and such." So
There's
It would
always
be a great studio to resurrect all these like dead properties. Netflix.
You're not wrong.
You're not wrong.
I was gonna say too, because isn't Lin still working with Sony Animation on his animated monkey film right now too?
Yeah,
I believe so.
yeah.
So I wonder if I mean this is a long shot, but we all know how Hollywood works. They keep this stuff around forever, and they go back to these projects that don't get touched for years. If that movie lands and hits, there's every chance that this project comes back.
I could see that. Yeah, I could totally see that. But yeah, I think otherwise, I would go to Netflix since we're about to talk about the Willoughbys. They're they're one of the few studios or like companies, like despite all their faults with how they run that service, are the only ones that are willing to kind of invest into experimentation. I mean, sure, Sony Pictures Animation is doing it right now with the recently delayed Connected and with Spider-Verse and such, and that won them an Oscar. But how willing were they going to be with that technology if, I mean, maybe I'm being cynical and such, if Spider-Man was not connected to that tech, you know? But that's just me.
No, I think you make excellent point.
But yeah, well, very sad. I hope these projects can come back to life.
Me too. Now, any other news stories you have before we move on to our main event?
I think that's it. I mean, like I just said, Connected, the new Lord and Miller, and the guy who helped direct a lot of Gravity Falls new film just got moved from September to October. And other than that, that's really it.
I am very much looking forward to seeing Connected, hopefully in a movie theater.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to push it on demand or sell it to Netflix or anything like that. I think it's costs a little more than the like Scoob and whatnot. Like I said.
And by October, I think this whole quarantine thing should be over.
Well, we'll have to see. Let's all stay hopeful and such.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they already started marketing it. It's really going to be dependent on how much more Sony wants to spend on it. That's really it's on them at that point. If they want to spend more money on it to market it a second time, then by all means they can. It's really going to be dependent on what happens, next with all of this, which is unfortunate because I have a theory that unfortunately, I don't think theaters are going to get flooded with people. I think that there's going to be a lot of caution to even go back outside when all this stuff is said and done without a vaccine in place.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. I'm not fully even if we opened up today or whatever, it's like, I'm not going.
Right, exactly. So it's really one of those things that Sony is the unfortunate situation that they don't have a streaming service. They don't really have an option other than selling the movie off if they really wanted to.
Crackle.
Oh yeah, they do have Crackle.
I forgot that was even a thing.
Hey, shout out to the Snatch TV series on Crackle that had, of all people, Rupert Grint, I believe.
Dude,
that's
Crackle,
the thing that existed.
Dude, Crackle still holds Spectacular Spider-Man chained up, which is just so funny to me because that's my favorite version of Spider-Man on screen. For good reason. It's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
But the fact that it remains free, but no one will ever lay eyes on it because no one knows what Crackle is. It just blows my mind because
they either don't know about it or just do not care about it. It's like Apple Plus right now. Nobody cares.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I'm just glad I own that show on Blu-ray. That's why Blu-ray exists. Same with Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which Disney dropped the ball on, because we've been going after everyone else. We might as well. Disney, you dropped the ball on Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. You should have brought it back to Disney Plus.
That was a good show.
It was a good show.
I mean, they might. You don't know that yet.
I have a hard time believing they would. Much like they did with Teen Titans going to Teen Titans Go. Disney did something very, very similar with Avengers and Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and did like another series. I think it was Avengers Assemble, and it is not nearly as good because it's much more like a comedic version of the characters.
Well, it's not even that comedic; it's just dull.
That too.
I mean, it's trying to be funnier, but it's not like what is that show they did like a decade or so ago? Like the Superhero Squad or something.
Yeah, the one that was like a Playmobil version, essentially.
Yeah, and was actually kind of funny when it could actually be funny.
Yep.
And no, it's that's I did like Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That was a good show, and it had a rockin' opening theme.
I love the theme song for that.
Yeah,
that was the one where Stan Lee was the mayor of the city that they all were in, right? Or something like that at one point.
I haven't watched it in forever, but that I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, that I kind of remember that at least.
Yeah. All right, shall we move on to the Willoughbys?
Yes. This is a movie that I'm pretty excited to talk about. It's based on the 2008 novel by Lois Lowry, and so we follow this family called the Willoughbys. There's 4 children. There's Tim, Jane, and Barnaby. Barnaby A and Barnaby B. They're twins with the same first name, and the story is about them trying to orphan themselves due to having neglectful parents. And by neglectful, I mean even the idea of children is terrifying to them.
So if anybody's curious, this was part of Netflix's big animation push. They were like, hey, we're going to commit to a bunch of different films, and we're going to have like a very unique lineup of animated stuff. Like they had last year's Klaus, which was, I think we all can say, was really good. And this also includes like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio stop motion film, Jorge Gutierrez's new miniseries. He's the guy who did El Tigre, was a character designer on Mucha Lucha, and directed The Book of Life. And then, of course, like Cartoon Saloon, the studio behind The Breadwinner, Song of the Sea, and The Secret of Kells, has a adaptation of My Father's Dragon coming out, I think, like 2 years from now. But yeah, this was one of their first major announcements for anime, like quote unquote theatrical animation.
And man, I really wish I saw this movie in theaters, because it certainly has that theatrical quality to it.
Yeah, personally, this is one of my favorite of the year. I know there's not a whole lot to choose from, but all things considered, I think Netflix has another home run with this one. I adored the Willoughbys.
I have not seen it yet. I'm dying to. I just really, really want to see it and sit down with it. I just had not had a chance. And I like what Netflix is doing with animation in this kind of what I was saying earlier. I think they've put the right foot forward in their push for animation, even with anime. But I think that they've actually had some really great original stuff on there. And it kind of reminds me of the times when DreamWorks would team up with Aardman to put out things like Chicken Run and, you know, some of those older Aardman films that I fell in love with early on. I like when companies take a swing and like do stuff like that. And this is one of those ones because Netflix had My Life as a Zucchini, correct?
G Kids brought that one over, but they probably put it on Netflix.
Right. So they pushed for it. I remember though too. Like it's one of the few times I remember Netflix actually pushing things. I think Netflix is not
you might
great.
be thinking about The Little Prince, which they bought
that was
Paramount.
The Little Prince was like the first the first animated movie that I remember being like a big deal for Netflix. And yes, that was originally a Paramount film, but they
dropped the ball.
They took that from them when
I
the
remember
project
that
kept
too.
getting delayed.
Right. I just for whatever reason I'm thinking of their push when they acquired My Life as a Zucchini.
Yeah, no, there was one. You're right, because I do remember, and it's still on the service.
Right, and it's still on the service because we were thinking about doing it as a watch along, and I remember just enjoying that it was just so different. It kind of reminded me of the things that you would see out of like Leica, and I think Leica does amazing work that people overlook all the time too. And the unfortunate thing is becoming animation just keeps kind of getting shafted so frequently by audiences, and it breaks my heart because I want to see some of these things succeed. So I'm glad that this one in particular, like Netflix is kind of the perfect place, especially right now, because more people's eyes are going to be on it.
Yeah, this is a very weird movie, and I'm even like with stuff like DreamWorks, Warner Brothers, and Illumination, I think they would have had a hard time saying, I don't know. And I like, despite some of the faults that this movie has, Netflix was the right place for it, even if I still want to own a Blu-ray of it and such.
Yeah, one of the cool things about this movie is that, you know, despite adapting a source material from 2008, it has a very kind of classic late 80s, early 90s family film vibe. Like it reminds me a lot of like James and the Giant Peach or Matilda, like that sort of like that really dark yet whimsical humor.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's a very accurate comparison because a lot of people are making the Roald Dahl comparison with this film, and of course, the film itself makes a slight reference to it, where they're like, James and the Peach Boy and his family were eaten by a hippopotamus. I thought it was a rhino, and it's a very unique movie, and I don't think other studios would have like gone the bat for it. And this is since we were just talking about Sony, this is directed by Chris Pern. I hope I said his name right. Right. He directed Claudio for Chance of Meatballs 2, and once you know about that, you can kind of see it. It has a very energetic, manic energy that is just delightful. It's done in CGI, but it's in a very like faux stop motion feel, and it's just a delight to watch because a lot of people kind of think that like, oh, 2D can just be 2D and CGI can just be CGI. You can't experiment. And I think it's healthy for like animation to try out new things, and seeing this kind of
medium.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, like we've said, animation is a unlimited canvas. You can do whatever you want with it. And the fact that it just uses such a vibrant color palette also, like this thing pops, and it just looks great in motion. And there's like a lot of sequences where the colors contrast, and then like the clouds look like actual cotton.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like when the baby pukes up a rainbow, it's like done in like a papercraft kind of way, and you see papercraft used. It's kind of like if Trolls from DreamWorks went a step further. And
Nice.
But yeah, that's just for me. It's a very visually impressive movie.
Yeah,
I'm here for it. I'm
I
excited
agree with
to
a
see
lot
it.
of that.
And I really like the cast for this because like if I saw this cast and I didn't know it was like a Netflix film, I would have maybe guessed it was like a straight to video film. No offense to Martin Short and Jane Krakowski. I think that's her name. But I think everyone did a pretty good job, and like Will Forte plays the older son Tim, and Maya Rudolph and Terry Crews are very funny in this, and Sean Cullen, who plays Barnaby A and B, has very good comedic timing.
I think that might be my favorite character. Those twins.
Yeah, the quirk with them is that they are slightly creepy, and they keep swapping one sweater between them, and they're very funny. I will say, like, I think one of the best parts about this film is that even though it has a dark comedic edge to it, and it takes itself as seriously as needed, they don't shy away from the fact that the Willoughby parents, played by Martin Short and Jane Krakowski, are just awful people. They are just the worst kind of parents you can think of. And of course, it's kind of amped up to 11. But the film finds a way to still be grounded with all of its characters, even with like the more abstract characters like Terry Crews's Commander Melanoff, who is just basically a very abstract Willy Wonka.
Yeah, a character like him is one of the reasons why I love animation so much, because like we pointed out, it's limitless. You can do anything, and suspension of disbelief is a little bit easier because you know not only none of it's real, but it's easier to accept in this kind of world.
Yeah. Evan, have you seen this film?
No, sadly I haven't. Like I mentioned before, I definitely one I'm gonna check out now. I didn't hear about the release, sadly. Until I saw Mike's review on Facebook, but hearing what you guys are saying in the cast also sounds great. I don't know how I didn't caught who made this point, but I don't know how you can say like a cast with Maya Rudolph, Martin Short, Terry Crews. That's not a straight to home video. That's a theatrical release right there. That cast
I
is
know.
actually kind of spicy.
I'm being harsh. I was being a little hyperbolic and harsh.
In his defense, Short has done a lot of direct-to-video type stuff.
I know Martin Short's running a little short on us. But anyways, I'm really excited because the concept sounds great. Hearing what you guys are saying about the animation actually makes me really interested, and I'm just kind of here for it.
Yeah, no. And like I said, the film finds a way to keep itself grounded and still have a lot of heart to it, and you feel for the kids, and like, I mean, yes, it's very quirky, and there's like a lot of offbeat humor, and you'll see that a lot in the trailer and such. But it knows how to balance itself out, because as much as I enjoyed Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, it didn't have the story to back up the zaniness. And I think, and you absolutely need that. It takes the Willoughbys from being a tech demo to being a more fully fleshed out product. And there are like a lot of little details that they do that I like. Like when you first meet Captain Melanoff or Commander Melanoff, and you get to see a commercial for his candy and such. They change up the stop motion look of it all to look like something from Rake and Bass, the people who did like all those holiday specials with stop motion and such, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And they also do like Papercraft when they're describing like, oh, we're going to send the parents off into this vast, like dangerous world. And there's a little bit of 2D animation used, but it's not frequent. But it's a film that has its own identity, and I like looking for that in a film, because a lot of times, like with working man directors for live action stuff, yeah, you can enjoy it, but you won't know like what kind of like what makes this person's film and such. I can see Chris Pern's fingerprints all over this. And like I said, it's just a funny movie. It commits to the absurdity of the situation. And if you look around, sometimes you can see the cat played by Ricky Gervais. And he'll be doing something funny or a little quirky, like when they're looking at the travel agency at the you can see that the cat's in the tree and he has a chainsaw in his hand from like an earlier scene, and it's actually really funny. And how they and man, I don't want to repeat anything. It's like it's able to be dark also. Like I don't know, Mike. Do you have any thoughts about the themes of the story and such?
It strikes a very nice balance between its mean-spirited dark humor with like the very warm, heartfelt ending. Something else I like about it is that while we know it's going to have a happy ending, it's not necessarily a predictable one. In fact, they even trick you. They even trick you with a fake ending.
They do that.
Yeah, before the real one.
Yeah, they do that a couple times, and they don't wimp out on like backtracking on like the meanness of the parents. No, the parents stay rotten throughout the whole movie. They don't like, I miss the kids, or like maybe we were wrong. No. They stick to it. They stay terrible. They're awful, and that doesn't change because like Illumination, if they got their hands on this film, would probably make it like, oh well, we were wrong and such, so we're sorry. We'll be a happy family. No. No, it's very much a roll doll kind of move to like keep the parents rotten. And it's a very stylistic movie also. This film has some great cinematography sequences where like when the orphanage comes, and the tagline for the orphanage is great. We correct where you went wrong. And there's a sequence when they're invading the house, and it's very like alien, very Men in Black looking, and just how they move and how they look. It's very imposing, and it's like I said, I look for a director who has an identity. I want to say that's a Chris Pern, that's a Hayao Miyazaki, that's a Hosoda, or
It's a
whatever.
Brad Bird.
Yeah, it's a Brad Bird and such. And it's just like it just like it like everything works about this film. Well, I say that, but I'm going to talk about some of the faults. Like for as quirky and abstract and absurd this film gets, I think it kind of stumbles when it gets back into like the traditional story and plot elements. Like it has its fun, and then it gets to the next part, like the big misunderstanding sequence, and I don't think it gels as well, but it's not bad. It's just like I've seen this story beat before.
I think I know exactly which scene you're talking about, and yeah, that's like that kind of cliche in these family films does get pretty old. I also wasn't quite the biggest fan of Ricky Gervais as the narrator. Not the lines he was saying, because I think the writing of the narrator is like actually really funny. I just think you could have given that role to literally anyone else.
Here's a hot
and it
take.
wouldn't have made a difference.
Here's a hot take about Ricky Gervais. He's the guy you get when you can't afford Eddie Izzard. And yeah, I agree. I just don't think he's the right voice and reason. I mean, the casting for the cat narrator. And like you said, it's funny. He does have funny lines. Like when you first are introduced to the baby in the box and you don't know it's a baby yet, he's like, "Yes, I know what you're all thinking. What's in the box? And when can we empty out that box so I can sit in it?" And but Ricky Gervais has a very dry sense of timing with his dialect, or at least that's from what I get when I watch like the original Office. And it doesn't fit here. I think you needed someone with a little more pizzazz, a little more energy, like Eddie Izzard
Or John Cleese.
or John Cleese. And I'm also I'm biased towards this issue because I just don't like Ricky Gervais as a comedian or an actor and such. I just don't think he's all that great. But that's just me.
Ricky Gervais is that guy who shows up at the party uninvited, but still makes the most noise anyways.
It's a bummer because I used to love him, man. Like, I got to interview him for Muppets Most Wanted, and I've liked his work for a very long time, but over the last couple of years, I have fallen out of favor with him in a way. Like, I don't know what it is, man. Dude is super talented, but he has squandered so much of that because I think he's just become like the most raging asshole.
Yeah, he really has almost gone out of his way to tarnish his legacy.
Right.
And it's like I think this is one of the things that almost turned me off to the film when it was first announced. It was because he was a part of it, and again, he's not bad. I just think he's miscast. And it's a shame because the narrator, who doesn't directly interact with the characters, except he kind of does at points, he has some of the funnier lines in the movie. And like when this big revelation happens and the nanny you see, played by Maya Rudolph, is leaving, it's just like, oh, she's leaving the whole world behind her. Okay, fine, I'll stop the bus. And then the story like adjusts to that, and he can be funny. And I think like seeing some of the stuff like his work on extras and such shows that he has the potential, but a lot of his animation output, like not like he's making animation, but like he was in that I forgot what it was called. It was a Weinstein animated distributed film called, like, I think Escape from Planet Earth. And this was like a long time ago.
I vaguely remember that.
And it's the same problems. I don't know if he's just not comfortable voice acting, but you need, again, someone like a John Cleese or an Eddie Izzard or who was the bald British guy who was the taxi driver in the first Paddington film? He pops up all the time.
I know who you're talking about. Shit.
But you need someone like him who has like a very chipper energy. And I know it's like it's a cat. It's very sardonic or sarcastic and such. And that would have worked if the lines, the dialect reflected that. And all right, Michael, so I'm going to ask you about this. Do you think all the children of the Willoughbys had a satisfying arc to them? Because a lot of the trailer kind of aims it at Jane being the main character, but it's really Tim. And for me, I think Jane kind of gets the short end of the story arcs, but maybe that's also because I've watched this film 3 times now.
Without giving anything away, I would say, well, since Tim is the one who I think is positioned as the main protagonist, yeah, I'd say his arc is probably the most fulfilled.
Yeah.
Jane, you're right. Could have hers could have been a little stronger. But because I think overall they all got the ending they deserved.
Oh yeah, no, it's like overall I think it's satisfying, but I think like individually, and like the Barnabys, they didn't really have much of an arc outside of like, okay, I like being Barnaby A or I like being Barnaby B. But a lot of the marketing, and of course, I don't really want to take marketing into like the overall like rating of the film, but the film really, and maybe this is just Netflix with their shenanigans. They really market that Jane is the main character, and that's not entirely true. But it's also because they got a musician to play her, and she has
that's the thing.
Yeah, and that she has the big original number. And to give him credit, it only shows up a couple times, and a lot of the singing that Jane does in the film is really funny. She's like, riding the bus now, going home. I found this piece of gum under the floor, and then it kind of leads into like later on. She's like we are back home where we belong. Eating that gum was a bad idea, and um and but then it's like at the very end something happens. I'm not going to say what happens. And it's like, oh, the day is partially saved because she had a big musical moment. It's not like a Elsa or anything like that situation, but it definitely feels a little part of the marketing. Like, okay, we're going to make this big animated film comedy and such, but we're going to push the big original song number like we did with Klaus. And I said this with Klaus. It's the worst aspect of an overall great movie. But that's
But like, in those cases, especially when they're straight to Netflix, as much, and again, I haven't seen the movie.
Yeah.
As much as you hate to see those things, and as annoying as they can be, people still have to watch it in order to enjoy the rest of the film. If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Bad
no.
filmmaking sucks in that cases, but also like when you're trying to get people to watch these like new and original movies, you have to give them a reason to watch just past an IP.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I get it, sadly.
No, I get it too, and it's not like it ruins the film or anything, and it's not like because it's slightly integrated into the story, and it's not like Klaus where you could take it away and then just like not miss it. But it is disappointing because it's like it's a really good moment, but there's that slightly underhanded feeling of like, let's push the original song right now at the lowest point and give them hope.
Right.
And but otherwise, a lot of the slight nitpicks are like they don't ruin anything. Really, it's just Ricky Gervais, some of the story pacing, and then the song that's integrated into the film. And it's not like it's a bad song, but if you listen to a lot of indie pop, it's kind of like a lot of the same stuff there.
Pretty much, yeah.
But otherwise, I think this movie's a blast. Like I think Netflix has a bright future if this is where they're going with their animated films. And like whatever like issues you have with the service, there's plenty. I highly recommend seeing it. I think kids and kids of all ages and families will like this movie.
I can't wait to watch it. It just sounds so up my alley and just so kind of my thing, so I can't wait.
Yeah, this is definitely a movie that'll like appeal to everyone, but I think it'll especially appeal those of us like our generation who grew up with like James and the Giant Peach or Matilda.
Love that
or
film.
any of those like classic dark family films. I think this will be right up your alley.
Oh yeah. This one hits like it's dark in comedy, it's dark in story, it's mature in that aspect, and I think there's really like this isn't like one of those films where it's like, well, a certain group of people will like it. No, this one is widely approachable, and I like it. Like I said, it's on Netflix. It's like just go watch it.
Now, before we wrap things up, does anyone have any other animated recommendations?
Oh, well, none of these stuff came out recently, but I've made this as public as I can, and I'm gonna keep screaming into the voids. I did a Pixar rewatch, all of them, all these movies, all these lovely films, and I rewatching one of them surprised me the most. Wall-E. I always slept on Wall-E, just because I'm like, it's just two robots falling in love, right? And little Evan didn't get everything else that was happening. Rewatching the movie, like if you don't like Wall-E, take a minute and appreciate the visual storytelling and appreciate the music. If you look at the film almost as if it's a silent film, it kind of changes your perspective.
Oh, it absolutely does.
Pixar kind of I hate the fact I slept on it so much because I was like, it's like top 15 Pixar movies, right? No. This is like one of the best films of all time. And I'm proud to say it. And I'm just glad I'm able to keep screaming it out into the voids. Do your best to see it from a different perspective. And that's something I like challenge myself with a lot of these films, is like trying to look at it from a perspective that you once didn't. And Wall-E was one of those where I did that, and oh man, just an absolute banger of a film. So it's on Disney Plus. If you get the chance, just watch Wall-E. I cried. I don't cry in movies, and I cried watching that one. It's fucking good, guys. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, it's a super sweet movie, and I kind of hate that some of the Pixar films have this kind of, or at least the fans and viewers kind of see it as like, oh, this one part of it's great, but everything else is kind of eh. And
Right.
And I just don't agree with that, because it's like you're missing out on the rest of the film by just saying, oh, the first half is the best because it's like a silent film and such. But and it's the same frustration I get with people who think Up is a mediocre film because it's like past the 10 minutes and such. And it's like, no, it's not. And or at least just in my opinion, of course. But I just don't like that mindset, because then it's dismissive towards everything else that happens. And yes,
right, exactly.
And yes, Wall-E has some not super subtle commentary. I get that. I understand that. But
it's funny. People have issues with that. You also have to realize the audience and who that movie's meant for.
Yeah.
Sometimes
we often forget that when talking about Pixar movies, that while yes, they are more mature than your run of the mill family films, they're still targeted at a younger audience.
Yeah, no, they're just able to get away with being mature because they trust their audience, that they'll understand like what's going on and such. And yeah, I think Wall-E's one of the better films that they've made, and a lot of that is the direction it takes, and Wall-E and Eve as characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so that's my recommendation. That's the one that blew me away during my rewatch.
I mean, for me right now, I've just been kind of going back to the vaults and enjoying things, but my recommendation right now is it's on par with where I'm sort of at with everything going on. It is Lilo and Stitch, just a movie that means a lot to me, and I adore that film very, very much. I think for being the 42nd animated Walt Disney animated film, it just offered such a breath of fresh air for the stuff that they'd been doing. I think it gets the adventurous spirit of some of the stuff that didn't always take off, but it still finds that like familiar family core that you come to know those movies for. I just adore it to pieces.
Yeah, Lilo and Stitch is a great movie. Just a super sweet, charming, and somewhat like serious movie. Like it has a vibe to it that only Chris Sanders, is that the director?
Yes, it is.
It was Chris and Dean DuBois, who would later go on to do How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, and again, those two directors have a distinct point of view, and you can totally see that with how Lilo is written as a character and how everyone interacts with one another. It's just it's a good movie. I definitely recommend seeing Lilo and Stitch. My recommendation's kind of weird. Well, I have two. One, if you have Netflix and you like G Kids, which are like the Criterion distributors of foreign animation, Criterion doesn't own them. I just use it as a catch-all term for like high quality. If you want like a double feature to play with the Willoughbys, one of Masaki Yuasa's films, Lou Over the Wall, is up on Netflix right now, and it's definitely like it kind of got slammed as like a Ponyo ripoff when it's absolutely not. And the reason why I pair it up with the Willoughbys is because it has a very absurd premise with a young boy who's living on an island with his dad and grandfather, and he's just kind of stuck in life. And then he joins a band with two friends of his, and ends up encountering a small mermaid named Lou. And the absurd part of it, besides the fact that mermaids exist, is that the original idea for Lou Over the Wall was the fact that they were supposed to be vampires. So if you see the film and you see the like Lou and other characters in the film bite other things and they turn into mermaids, yeah, that was left over by the director, and he said it because it's like that sounded cool to me. And since we're talking about Disney Plus, my second recommendation is going back way back to I think 1973 with Disney's Robin Hood. We talked about this on the last podcast a little because of the not live action, but quote unquote photorealistic remake of Robin Hood. And I rewatched it yesterday, and it's still a fun movie to watch. It's a very low key film to watch. Some people might get a little bored, but I'm not going to be shocked about that. But I would watch it because of its infamy with how much animation it reuses, and not just like how it traced over sequences from Snow White, the Aristocats, or Jungle Book. There are sequences where they will rewind character movements, they will rehash run cycles and such. It looks like if this movie like lost a like $1 million from its budget, the whole thing would fall apart. But it still has like a lot of that old school Disney charm to it. Because it was in that time period of like Sword in the Stone, The Jungle Book, and it's still a fun movie to watch, and I'd still highly recommend it. So Lou Over the Wall on Netflix, and Robin Hood, just for like the sake of animation and such, on Disney Plus.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah. So I have a movie recommendation and a TV recommendation. My movie recommendation, if you want to watch something with a similar character design as the Willoughbys, I would check out The Addams Family from last year. It's not perfect and probably not as good as the live action films, but it still captures the spirit of the original Charles Addams comics, and it has plenty of great it has a terrific cast, one that could play in a live action adaptation, but also as far as family films go, this is I'd say it's like it's about like pretty it's one of the better animated films not from Disney or Pixar. On the TV side of things, for those who still haven't seen it yet, DuckTales, the 2017 reboot, just keeps getting better each week. The latest episode finally introduced Daisy Duck to the series, and I think this is probably one of the best versions of the character, and it features Daisy and Donald like having better chemistry than any other version they've had. So yeah, those are my two recommendations.
That sounds good to me. I need to catch up on that show. I am so, like I said, I'm so behind on that show. It's not even funny.
It's so easy to catch up on it though, because like I swear to you, I watched all 2 seasons that's available on Disney Plus in 3 days. 3 days.
Because I told you to, by the way.
PJ, excuse me. I watched it in 3 days.
I just want it known that I pushed Evan to watch DuckTales because he was being awful and had not seen it.
I was not being awful. Just hadn't seen it yet. Excuse me.
It's the same
Hey,
thing.
better late than never.
Yeah, better late than never.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts or anything?
No, man. I'm just. I was very happy to be here. Thank you again for having us, guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Now, where can everyone find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at PJ_Campbell. And of course, you can find me every night at the PJ Campbell Network for the most part. 7 p.m. PST, 10 p.m. EST. We have a new show every night. There's always stuff going on. Like, we have a whole graphic over on the channel. Just head to YouTube, find us, and you can see everything we're doing. We do watch-alongs. We do game nights. We have an interview show. We have a show called Suddenly Soundtracks run by the great Chris Clark, where he breaks down movies and soundtracks song by song, and it is incredible. So check that stuff out.
And Evan, where can the kids find you?
All right. Well, you can find me on Twitter at Evan Degraff Live. Again, if you guys want to comment on my Pixar list, please do. I really want conversations about those films because they're just so much fun to talk about because I don't find one bad. And again, just go to my Twitter. Let's have a conversation about those movies. And then on Tuesday, either this past one or the one coming up, I'll say the exact date so the viewers at home know. On Tuesday the 28th, I have an interview dropping with Abby Friel on my show, Famous Last Words. So make sure you guys check that out. And then we're also doing some really cool shit. I help run our family game nights. I keep PJ sane during our watch-alongs, and that's kind of like what I do. So if you guys want to talk, just at me on Twitter, and we'll figure something out. So thanks, guys.
You can find me on Twitter at Cam's Eye View. I also run a website called camseyeview.biz. I run a review series called The Other Side of Animation, where we take a look at non-Disney and Pixar animated films. And that does include, we do look at Warner Brothers and Sony and such, but it's mostly looking at stuff from overseas and smaller indie releases and such. I just recently uploaded the worst to best animated films of 2019 part 2 on my website, so make sure to check that out. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camseyeview, and you can go check that out. And that's all I have to say.
All right, and you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Captain K42. Check out my letterbox at letterbox.com/CoachK42. And just look for me in all the various Facebook film groups, just at my name, Michael K. And also, don't forget to check out the Renegade Pop Culture Facebook group and our website, renegadepopculture.com. Thank you guys for joining another episode of Tooned Up. Hope you catch you in the next one. Take care.
Bye.